And we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the 18th episode of the Finish Line Formula podcast, where we give you the ingredients to not only get you to the start line, but also to the finish, because we all love finishing. Anyway, I'm joined with the Noosa Marathon Boys. Let's get into it. Welcome back. Week 17 done. First of all, announcements, podcast availability, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all of the other streaming services. Eat your heart out. We're now 6 days away from the big dance. Noosa Marathon, 2024, 25th of May. Get your tickets. Jokes, don't get your tickets. It's sold out. But if you want to come see four young stallions run 4,200 and something meters, get yourself down to Hastings Street, where we'll be kitted out in LSKD, head to toe. Anyway, let's get into it. My name's Nick. The boys are now going to introduce yourselves. If you don't know who we are, well, thanks for joining. Yeah, let's take it away.
Yo, what's
Cool.
up?
Easy.
My name's Will.
I'm Sean.
And my name's Cam.
Take
Can
it
smells?
Anyway, we'll go from left to right. So, my name's Will. I'm 1/4 of the Noosa Marathon Boys. On race day, you'll be able to find me under nickname Big Willie, as long as they haven't denied me my name. I guess we'll find out. Moving on to the next
Yeah.
person.
My name's Sean. I'm 2/8 of the Noosa Marathon Boys podcast.
Quick math.
My name's Cameron. I'm 4/16 of the Noosa Marathon Boys. I'm running under Cameron. Next
And
week.
once again, my name... Nice. And once again, my name's Nick. I'm 100% of the Noosa Marathon Boys. Anyway, topic of today, we're talking about tapers. We're in the middle of the taper now, but we're going to be discussing tapers in depth. Anyway, as always, weekly recap. It's Sunday afternoon here in beautiful Sydney. We're going to take you through what the week looked like. Starting with Cam, third week back. Take it away, Cameron.
All right. Well, it was a pretty crazy week in comparison to last week. We had Monday rest as usual, 10K on Tuesday, and then I had what could only be described as shin splints or something along those lines. So I took Wednesday off. Instead of doing a speed 12, I believe I did a 6K. Thursday was another rest. Friday was a 6K. Yesterday, which was Saturday, I did a 16K, and then I was scheduled to do a 6K this morning, but miscalculated a run club and ended up doing 3.4Ks. So pretty mild week for me this week.
Well, I don't know how does a run club only end up doing 3.4 Ks?
So they had different tiers of people that started every hour. And so every hour was understandably 10Ks. But then the last one, I read the other ones being like they're going to run to 20 minutes out, 20 minutes back, 20 minutes rest. But then on the last one, it was 10 minutes out, 10 minutes back. So I thought we were going to do around 6, ended up doing 3 and a bit.
Is that so people finish at the same time?
I mean, everyone loves to finish at the same time, but yes, we all know it just doesn't happen in reality.
I think that's called a simultaneous.
Anyway,
I think that's called a simultaneous.
Oh my, oh
Cam,
my
are you saying
god.
are you saying you started last and finished first?
Usually, yeah.
See see that's not how a gentleman does it, but
No,
it's all right.
no.
We
I'm a bit of a selfish
always,
runner at times. I'm too focused on myself and my form.
Loves a raw dog.
oh shit.
Good
Anyway.
cadence.
What about you boys? What did your week look like?
So this week we had the usual 5 sessions, although I only did 4 of them. I'm not sure about Sean, but anyway, on Monday, rest day, the usual. Then Tuesday we had an aerobic 11 kilometers. Then we had a speed session on Wednesday, 13 kilometers, 3 times 1600 meters at a 5k pace. And then rest Thursday, Friday, we had 8 kilometers. And then yesterday was meant to be 19. I know Sean did that, but I did my 19 today. And today being Sunday. And today on Sunday, we're meant to do 8 kilometers, which I just haven't bothered doing this week because, yeah.
Nice.
Anyway,
Nice.
quick one, Sean. Did you, are you like me? Did you only do 4 of the sessions or did you do all 5?
Yeah, so I did Tuesday's run and then woke up on Wednesday with a ripping sore throat. So I took Wednesday, Thursday off. Then on Friday, instead of doing the aerobic run, I did the session, the 3 by 1600 meters. Saturday, did the one run last night. And then if I have the time, I've just got a bit of stuff to sort out this afternoon, I'll go out for the 8Ks.
Nick, have we gone through your week yet?
No, I don't think you have.
Well, let's hear it.
Hey, drum roll, please. Start it. Well, no, you can just add an effect. Well, after the fact. Anyway, Monday rest day. Tuesday was 11 Ks with 8 strides. Wednesday, 6 kilometers with 6 strides. Thursday was a 13-kilometer run with 3 by mile repeats at 5k pace. 5k race pace, not 5 kilometers not 5 minute per kilometer pace. Anyway, Friday, 10 kilometers with some more strides. Yesterday was the final long run. Saturday, 21 kilometers, and then 8 kilometers this morning to wrap up the week. We're now 6 days out, as I said before, and we're looking good.
Are we?
Are we? I don't know.
I don't know about you. I'm great.
I'm feeling pretty rough in terms of like muscular wise. I'm seeing my physio tomorrow morning to get some last minute needles done. I know recovery wise, it takes me about 3 days in the worst case scenario for me to recover. But yeah, everything's too tight. Oh my God.
Pause.
My hamstring and my ITB, just everything in that region is just a little too ridiculous at the moment.
In that region.
Is that like your
Nice.
nickname for him?
Exactly.
Little ITB.
You need a grown man to loosen you up a bit.
Exactly. Stretch me out, get me warmed up for the race. But so I'm seeing old mate Jason tomorrow morning to get that all sorted. And yeah, we'll see how we're going. I've started to notice these last 2 weeks that basically any possible injury that one would get with a lot of running, such as like shin splints and all that, I'm starting to notice the early signs of that. So I'm keen to kind of get this race done out of the way so I can take some time off to actually let my body recover.
Perfect. Anyway, that takes us to the topic of the week.
Easy. So we jump into the topic of the week. We're going to be talking about the taper. So with this, we'll start out with Cam. What do you think the most basic level of what an actual taper is? Like, how would you describe it?
Well,
Or at least what you
doing
thought it was before we started.
Yeah, I mean, doing some very basic word forensics and what I assume would be good for you before a marathon, I think that a taper is something along the lines of reducing your volume and or intensity enough to allow your body to recover, but not enough that you actually start losing the gains that you've made. So it's about kind of decreasing and being fresh for the marathon, but not losing the progress that you've made.
Interesting. I like that. I like that. Now that we've heard what I guess Cam and Cam's understanding of what a taper is similar to mine, and I imagine if Sean give me a nod, it's probably similar to his. Yeah. So with that being said, Nick, from your
Sean's got a
professional
gun to his head.
experience. So Nick, give us your professional opinion on what an actual taper is, like what the intent is, and kind of what makes up a taper.
To make it easier, it's best to strip it all back and define tapering at its simplest, and that is a reduction in training volume. And in terms of running, training volume means how many kilometers you run per week or mileage. So the only thing you're reducing during a taper is the actual training volume or kilometers you run per week. That's it. You don't reduce. Actually, we'll get into the three things. What else do I have to say?
No, that was pretty much it. So now that we understand what the official definition of a taper is, are there any sort of guidelines that one should follow when it comes to an actual taper?
Yeah, there's 3 guidelines you should be following, and I'm going to tell you what those 3 guidelines are now. So the first one is to decrease volume, as we've said, but not decrease intensity or frequency of you running per week. The second is going to be the duration of the actual taper itself. Now, you want a taper to be around 1 to 3 weeks, depending on how long the distance is that you're running. For example, we're running a marathon, so we want to be edging between 2 to 3 weeks.
Hey, yo.
Now the third is how much to reduce the volume by. The rule of thumb here is about 20 to 30%. Now, a quick example would be if you're running 100 Ks per week, an arbitrary number, make it easy for you maths geniuses out there. 100 kilometers a week, 20 to 30%. That is reducing the volume to 80 or 70 kilometers per week in the first week of taper, and then another 20 to 30% in that second week, and so on and so forth. So, if you're following those rules, the 3 rules I've just laid out for you, you should be in good stead to show up on race day fresh, happy, healthy, and hopefully injury-free.
Well, I like that you ended that mentioning about injury-free in a sense, because there was a main part during the taper that left me perplexed the entire time. And in a moment, I'm going to see if Sean, if he had much of the same experience, which is the part about, yes, I understood decreasing volume, but not the intensity, or frequency and volume I understood keeping, but the intensity part. I noticed that as we started doing these speed sessions that were going for longer distances, first it was 600 meters one of the weeks, and it was 1200, then it was 1600. And we're still doing it at that like 5K pace, which would be, I don't know, for Sean and I, somewhere around the 330 to 345 range per kilometer. And I was finding that going from weeks and weeks and weeks on end of just these longer runs to then, which were at a much slower pace, to then all of a sudden start doing something that was what I would say ridiculously quicker, I've started noticing that I've been riding that edge again of injuries popping up, but this time completely different ones. Not so much my ITB, but more so like my hamstrings and stuff not holding up. So before we get, I guess, your experience, your opinion, Nick, on why it's important to maintain the intensity, I want to see, Sean, from your perspective, how do you find keeping the intensity the same? Or not keeping it the same, making the intensity, I guess, more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, these I guess, 5K workouts or repeat workouts, I've found we started them in the entirety of the block, like pretty late, as far as maybe only 5 weeks ago we started doing them, which it's been interesting because even throughout the increased volume that we've had, I feel as though, at least for me, those workouts have helped significantly increase my fitness over the last few weeks, and just getting experience and time at those faster paces. But I guess I've been similar to you, where the last, especially this week's 1600-meter workout, it felt a bit strange to be doing such an intense workout less than 10 days out from the marathon, because I definitely felt I pulled up a bit sore after it. But I guess back to what Nick was saying, it does make sense that you want to maintain some intensity so that your body is, I guess on a weekly basis, used to running faster. I think if we had cut them out entirely and just went back to running 5 minutes or 5-minute 30s, just not having any time on legs close to our goal marathon pace leading up to race week, might have felt a bit strained as well.
That's a fair point.
The only thing I would have said, I think the main thing is because we went from beginners to where we are now in such a short period of time, it would have been cool to have more of those workouts in earlier on, because I enjoyed them a lot, but also I presume they were programmed then because that's when our bodies were ready for that kind of workout.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something which I'm only considering now based off what you've said, which is I think the fact that we were running these, what I'm going to call ridiculous paces, because like I said, I felt like I was giving it 100% on each of those speed sessions. Like I was finishing them, and it reminded me of my intensity of my track day trainings back in high school, like where by the end of it, I'd feel like I want to puke. And something I have kind of taken for granted until now is anything less than that sensation of feeling like I'm about to puke feels like I'm relaxing in a run, which means that when we go and do the marathon, at least psychologically, we're going to feel like, oh, this is like, it's quick, but we're going to be feeling like, hey, this feels great, this pace. This feels somewhat like I'm going quick, but I don't feel like I'm about to puke like I was on the 5K pace run. So I wonder if that's also an aspect to it. So with that being said, Nick, what's actually the reason why the intensity must stay the same?
Yeah, so why do we keep intensity? We keep intensity because, like Sean said, if we put all our... How do I explain this? If we reduce volume and reduce intensity and then end up running all our runs during the taper period at a slower pace than race pace, your body's going to get used to that. And then come race day, your body's not going to be used to running fast. So the whole point is you want to be well rested, but the intensity component is left in because you want to be still feeling fast. Your legs want to be feeling fast and sharp.
Yeah, I found on the psychological aspect of it as well, especially on these 1600-meter workouts this week, having also come off of 2 days of being sick, is that it's kind of nice to be running at 3 minutes 35, 3 minutes 40 and go, oh, like marathon pace is going to be 30 to 45 seconds slower, if not even slower, doing a negative split over the race, and being able to correlate how running 6 minutes to 5 minutes 30 feels like an eternity of pace difference. And it kind of, at least through the 5K workouts, I found that it's flowed backwards as well, where if I can run 3:45, then doing a 4:15, 4:20, 4:30 feels much more cruisy and relaxed. I guess that plays a part on the psychological side.
Yeah, which is probably far more eloquently put than I was saying it, but that's exactly what I was trying to describe before, is exactly that psychological aspect. So I know our sticking point as the Noosa Marathon Boys kind of was around that intensity and why that stays the same, but there may be someone in the audience who might be stuck on a different point there. So about why the frequency, for example's sake, why that doesn't change. So Nick, can you elaborate on why the frequency doesn't change?
Well, before we go into the frequency, I just wanted to quickly touch on the other component of intensity is you like Sean said, you want to keep intensity at the same, like it should be the same as what it was during the block. But as I said, you want to be fresh as you're freshening up during the taper, 1 to 3 weeks. It's a long period of time. As you're freshening up, you got reduced residual fatigue that you have been carrying throughout the 16 weeks prior, 14 weeks prior. And as you were getting fresher, you should also be getting quicker. Your legs should be feeling quicker. So that intensity can actually increase. So that's something to look out for. If you do feel like you're going a bit faster than you should, that's okay, especially during a session, because that's your body just saying, my legs are feeling fresher. We want to go faster. So don't try to put a halt to a certain pace if you do find yourself going a bit quicker. Anyway, back to what I was just asked, which was frequency. Throughout the 16 weeks, 18 weeks, whatever your block is, as I keep saying, you've been running at a frequency of 4 times a week, 5 times a week, 6 times a week, maybe 7 times a week. Maybe you haven't taken a rest day at all. So your body gets used to that. It gets into a nice rhythm. It understands, I'm running on this day. I'm going to be fatigued on this day, and so on and so forth. So if you get to a taper and start changing out the frequency, if you're running 5 days and then you go, I'm only going to run 2 days a week because I need to reduce my volume, your body's going to freak out, and then it's going to be saying, where's my exercise on these days? And that can lead to more problems than less. So that's why you want to kind of leave frequency the same. If you're running 5 days a week, keep it 5 days, reduce the volume. The main reduction in volume for a week should be coming from the long run, as that is usually around, I think, 40% of your entire training week, maybe more. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on this, but that is the bulk of your training, is the long run, and that is where the bulk of the reduction comes from. So you can reduce it. If you're running 6 days a week, you can reduce the frequency by 1, so you end up running 5 days a week. That's fine, but don't drop it from 6 to 3 or 5 to 2, just for example's sake. Keep frequency at an all-time high.
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense. I think something that I'm struggling with at the very least is, as you guys know, I had a little bit of time off. And then when I came back, I did the half marathon, was looking at doing like a 5:45 pace, ended up doing closer to a 5 because my legs felt so fresh and I felt so good on the day, and it just really felt effortless. I've noticed that the difference between when I did that, which was taper, but I guess could have been seen as a very long extended taper, in comparison to next week, where we're running 2 days before and then the day before the marathon. My assumption would be that isn't a good idea. So why have you programmed it that?
Because I am the master, the program writer, and the king of what you do. So don't question the authority. Nah, in all seriousness, Cam, the reason why you're running a couple of days before the actual marathon is because, like I said, your body's got into a rhythm. If you get to race day and you haven't run for 3 days before, like prior, your body's going to be going, that first 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers is going to be going, waking up. It's going to be waking up, asking you what you're doing. So the point of race day, and in all seriousness, ask yourself, what are the whole point of those runs aren't to build any aerobic performance benefits. It's more just your body going through the rhythm and creating that muscle memory. So hopefully that makes sense. I had a point I was going to say, but I forgot.
Yeah, no, that makes
something
sense.
I want to continue, Cam.
No, I was talking because no one else was. You go for it.
Oh, no, fair.
Nice.
Something I was thinking about these last couple of weeks is, for those who've watched Corey's episode, I forget if it was part 1 or part 2, but in one of them he talks about how science has shown that it's after 10 days of no training at all that the body that's when they've found on average that someone starts to go backwards in their fitness level. I'm obviously not articulating as well as their science terms that they were using in the conversation, but I was sitting there thinking the same thing as what Cam kind of brought up, is what maybe not a whole 10 days beforehand, but why would there not be an entire 3 days at minimum that we're just not on feet at all? I don't know. There's a part of me that still kind of thinks that a little bit, but hey, this is my first time running a marathon, so I guess I'll find that out. So it'd be quite interesting.
Well, a little thought experiment we could do. How about Will doesn't run 3 days before the race, and Cam, you do the program 2 days before race day runs, and see who feels better on race day.
Will would probably still feel better. You should have said Sean for that example.
And Sean,
Look,
you can just go f*** yourself.
I think if you look at other sports like tennis, when earlier I think at the start of the year, I went with Erica to go watch some tennis, and maybe 4 or 5 hours prior to Nadal playing his singles match, we were entering the stadium, and you could see him out in the sun getting some practice rounds in the morning of his game. I think I think for every sport, no matter what you do, whether it's a sport or anything in general, having muscle memory and just maintaining it at a very small degree makes such a big difference. No matter what it is that you do, Will's has an interest in racing cars, so if you hopped on a simulator for 10 minutes a day, every single day, you might not necessarily be building any more skill, but your muscles are still firing off in the way that they need to, so that come race day, you're going to perform. I think the same applies to running.
Yeah.
There is a bit of a like you're saying, a bit of a neuromuscular component to it. As you're saying, there's no physiological benefits that you're getting from actually running, but you're also not inducing fatigue. These runs, the runs Cam's talking about, the one the day before and the one 2 days before, they're not inducing any fatigue on your legs. The whole point of them is to just tick the legs over, to keep that, I guess you, as at simple terms, mind-body connection going. Because
I haven't considered this, until now, but even for the half marathon, I found that the runs that we were doing the couple of days beforehand, I actually do see the benefits now. Is it help kind of keep the nerves off? Because if you just have 3-4 days of absolutely no running, all you're going to be thinking about is that next run you do. Whereas if you're continuing to do the sessions in the days beforehand, your mind's not entirely going to be just on the race. It's going to be, I've got the 8 kilometers I've got to do this morning, and I've got to do the 6 kilometers tomorrow morning. And then it's race day. I think it helps break up that week so that you're not in your head the entire time. So I hadn't considered
that would go back to the mental component of this. And I think that's what you've looked at, is reducing pre-race anxiety, and after a bit of research today, a term that's come up is paranoia.
Woo.
But Nick, what's paranoia?
Glad you asked there, Cam. Wow. I would have never thought someone would want to maths quick. What? So, Cam, wow, great question asking what paranoia is. Now, all paranoia is a phobia of the marathon, and some symptoms can include feeling too good during the taper. Funny enough, you kind of want to feel shit during a taper. I think all 4 of us, including me, because that's 4, Noosa Marathon Boys is 4 people, we've all had, I guess, what you could call not great experiences with running during the taper. We haven't felt fantastic. We haven't felt fresh as you'd expect, which is concerning for some of us. I know Cam's calling me at 2 a.m. in the morning asking me, why is this blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I had to calm him down, and he's had a fantastic week. But it is a normal feeling to feel restless or not as fresh in your mind and in your legs. And that's just a normal part of the process of a taper. And all I can say to that is make sure you're patient with it. Make sure you trust the process and are patient with the taper.
Yeah. So with that being said, then we haven't, like, all three of us, Sean, Cam, myself, none of us have run a marathon before. Sure, we've done a half marathon, but if there's anything I've heard, not only you, but other people constantly repeat, is it's a whole different beast. So with that being said, from your experience of not only running marathons, but doing them as intense as sub 3 hour multiple times, are there any other tips that you would pass across to us and the audience?
For race day, we're going to great question. For race day, we're going to get into that in the next episode. So thanks for asking, Will. But some other tips to do with the taper, I'm going to rattle these off. You want to reduce any external stresses. If your boss is being annoying, him off. Similar to running, if you're doing strength training, you want to reduce the strength component and focus on more power exercises, plyometric exercises. Say you're doing 3 sets, you want to reduce that to about 1 or 2 sets. And then you want to focus on these 4 things. 1, focus on your sleep, increasing the amount of sleep you get. 2, stay hydrated. If you're dehydrated, it takes your body 3 days to get back to baseline levels. So focus on hydration during the taper. 3rd thing is to focus on nutrition. Make sure you're getting in enough protein to help with the protein muscle re-synthesize BS science stuff. And finally, get in the carbs because your body needs the glycogen. Now, that's not to be confused with the carb loading that happens 3 days out, 2 to 3 days out. And the final tip is to stay off legs as much as possible. Don't go, I know a lot of marathons, you travel to places and you want to explore the city, but try and stay off legs until after the race. So those are 4 tips external to the actual running component that you should be looking at implementing during the taper. Anyway, I've got to bounce. Sean's got to bounce. Will's going to wrap this one up. Will and Cam are going to wrap this up because I've got to get to Pilates. Woo!
Nice. Shout out Pilates. So closing out, thank you all for listening. You've been through whatever time frame this episode's gone for. We appreciate that you've taken time out of your day to listen to us. If you have a spare moment, please drop a like, a comment, whatever it may be. Any sort of engagement helps us get this out to other people. So really do thank you for that. So we've got us, so we're on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Club Penguin, everywhere. We're there. RuneScape as well. We got them primordial boots, don't you worry. So with that all being said, I know Sean would like that one. But anyway, thanks for listening, guys. This coming week, we've got the actual race. So what we've decided, I'm not sure if Sean and Cam actually know this yet, but Nick and I were chatting earlier. What we're going to do is have like a midweek episode, just a brief one, just to touch on, I guess, a few comments of what we're feeling like leading into the race. So yeah, cool. We'll get that all sorted. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate your time. Bye.
See ya.